Hey guys. Welcome to Emotion Monday. I should have sound now. Let me try to get myself together. Okay, I should have sound now. That was crazy. So I now got to go through this whole thing over again. But welcome to Emotion Monday. Um for you guys that are your first time here, Emotion Monday is a play on words. E is electronic. Motion is movement. God has given me this to encourage, um, to give inspiration, to give a push, to his believers and those that want to come to him, and also to give wisdom and Jesus nuggets, as I call them, as he gives them to me. I thank God for wisdom and knowledge, and I thank him for giving me this to share and to pour out everything that he feels into me. So I'm just so grateful. I'm so, thankful, and I'm so blessed that he trusts me with the information. He trusts me with revelation because I want to help people. I genuinely want to see people, go to the lengths that God has for them, go to the purposes, right, that God has for them. So I'm just so thankful, right? Um so welcome, and thankful for my podcast listeners that listen. I don't know what episode that we're on, but I know that we're approaching the 120th episode. So I'm so thankful. Like I said, I couldn't have done and did all of this and had anything to record if it wasn't for God and for him trusting me with information. So I just wanted to go ahead and just jump right on in, since I wasted time before not having my microphone on. I could not believe that I was talking for a half an hour, to my podcast listeners without the microphone on. But things happen, human error, with electronics and technology. It does happen to the best of them. So welcome, you guys. We're going to get right into this topic. You guys know the hashtag, let the healing begin. So we're going to be speaking about the trauma of our choices. And God gave me this, right? He gave me this even before I started doing the Saved and Single series. And it was just, burning within me so much, right? It was burning within me so much that I wanted to do it even before the series. But, God does that. He always drops something in the middle of me doing something. So I'm just like, God, but I want to talk about, the dating, that's what he gave me. But sometimes God gives me so much, I don't know what to do with it. And I have post-its literally, if you guys could just see my desk just now, I have post-its literally almost everywhere. Right? Post-its everywhere with topics that I have not touched on yet, because he gives me something fresh, something new every time. So, the trauma of our choices is we're going to talk about briefly tonight. I done wasted a lot of time having it on mute. The trauma of our choices. And what's so funny is that, my pastor preached about it last night, and we preached about the trauma of God trusting you. So we were kind of in the same vein. And as he was preaching, I'm like, he's in my notes. He's in my notes a little bit. So this is the trauma of our choices. I kind of wanted to bring this to light because, as I was reflecting, on myself and on my choices, right? I just thought about, the things that I have, went or I would say the residue of what I have been feeling or had been feeling because of my choices, right? There is a residue to your choices, right? Whether they be good or bad. But when you made wrong choices, God is in the midst, and God does make it right, but it doesn't take away the fact that you feel some kind of trauma. Right? Even from the bad ones, you feel some kind of trauma. And, I have a few notes here that I'm going to read, right? Trauma is a deeply distressing or disturbing experience, right? It's a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. And, so if you're a person that experiences anxiety, even procrastination, even being stagnant, that could be a result of trauma, right? Like you feel like you can't move forward. You can't push forward. You can't go any further. You don't want to make the next step because the last time you made the choice to do that, it didn't turn out well. It didn't turn out how you pictured it. So now you're even scared. Like it hurts you deeply. So we're talking about a deep hurt here. We're talking about a deep emotional wound that prevents you from moving and progressing forward. When you have trauma, it's hard to move forward. Your feet is cemented, right? Your feet get cemented and staying where you are. But and it's a lot, and I'm gonna go into it because I was, telling going to tell my thoughts and testimony and how I got to this topic because, like I said, I had experienced trauma of my own choices, right? So let's see. And so crazy because I've been saying that exact thing, feeling like I've been attached to the residue of last year, literally been praying to detach from it. Yes. Even in that, people don't understand that even the pandemic, and I believe a lot of people are experiencing trauma, from that, and maybe like the choices that they had to make, right? From there, right? You had to make like some dire choices because of the situation that was going on, and then now you're experiencing the trauma, from it. So most of the time, the trauma of our choices is emotional. And I wrote emotional trauma is, the definition is the end result of events or experience that leaves us feeling deeply unsafe and often helpless. Right? I'll read it again. Emotional trauma is the end result of events or experiences that leave us feeling deeply unsafe and often helpless. And this definition, hit me, it really did hit me because, I believe I had been traumatized for dating. You guys know we talked about dating and, the benefits of living saved and single. We talked about dating and the woes of dating and everything. Those woes of dating left me traumatized. So like I said, I'm not telling you guys that nothing that I have not experienced for myself. Those dating woes, I had been traumatized, right? I didn't even want to go no further. I'm just like, you know what? This is too much going on. And I just remember, dating and or with someone, and I think one night it's like I had enough. Like I got up and felt like I was running like for my life. I was so traumatized. It's like everything that I had experienced in past relationships came rushing to me. So it just wasn't, that relationship. It was a combination of other ones that I have been in, right? It was a combination of it. And I just was like, I gotta go. It was like what they say, a fright or flight or something like that. Like I just felt like I had to run. I just had to run. Like I can't do this anymore. I can't deal with the mind games anymore. I can't deal with, the mental things that were going on, the feeling of feeling less than. It was trauma. It was so much trauma, that it was literally just like breaking me down and putting me in a place that I didn't want to be in. And I was just like, oh my God, I think I'm traumatized, right? But the thing is, I chose those relationships, right? Those were my choices. I chose to be in those situations, right? I chose it. Even though everything works for the good of those who love the Lord, and because there are some conditions, all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are for the call, for his purpose. Those that are called according to his purposes, it's going to work out. And, in God's infinite wisdom, we don't know how he works things out, even though we feel like we make wrong choices, but it works out. right? But we have to be in a relationship with him in order for us to visualize and to see, the benefit of that, though. So that's the clause in it. You have to be in a relationship with God to see, even though all that you've been through and you've been through trauma of your choices, you still have to be in God to see, how it works out for you. Right. So, I'm just thinking, like, I made the choice, to get married, right, in my 20s, when I was younger, because, I idolized marriage. It didn't even necessarily have to do anything with the person. It was just because, I was trying to fill a void. I was trying to fill the emptiness that I had inside. So I was just picking people that were not, really supposed to be for my future, right? Because I was impatient. So I dealt with the repercussions of that, right? I dealt with the repercussions of that, kept on, involving other people, and just the way that, like I said, I allowed it. That was my choice. Allowed them to treat me, because people can only treat you as much as you allow them to treat you, right? So I allowed them to treat me like that. So I had trauma from my choices. And also, sometimes when you're going through that and you're feeling that, anxiety, anything that you're feeling as a repercussion of being traumatized, we try to hurry up and get over it really quick. And sometimes that's not, even all the time, that's not the correct way to handle that, right? How, and I wrote in my notes, how to fix emotional trauma. It takes time. Don't rush, because there's so many layers. There's so many layers that have to be peeled back, right? There's so many areas that has to be peeled back. And I get on here, and this podcast is definitely, I feel, is kind of different out there than anyone else's, because I cause people to self-reflect and self-reflect often, right? Because I can only teach you guys tools that have worked with me and how I have a testimony, right? It takes time, and it was some deep and revelation, deep evaluation, that it hurt. It hurts to look inside of yourself and find something negative, right? It hurts. You don't want to see any negative aspect of yourself, and then you're just like, well, I'm the one that caused this. I made these choices. Like, this is the reason why I'm like this, because of what I chose. But nobody wants to self-reflect. And you guys know what I said last time about self-reflection. When you self-reflect, you'll know what to correct. You'll know what to correct, and it enables movement, right? Because if you're waiting, you're not going to listen to anyone else pointing anything out about you. So you might as well just be in the face of God and have him peel you open. Right? You might as well. That's the safest place. You might as well have God, spend time with him, and have him peel you, right? And in the timing that he wants to. But you have to seek that. You have to want that. You have to want the will of God more than anything else. You have to want to be perfected, by him. You have to see in areas where you've made choices that, like, well, God, I didn't listen to you the first time. You have to acknowledge that, because that's helping you grow. That's maturity, right? That's good. When you self-reflect, you'll know what to correct. Actually, absolutely, you'll know what to correct. And this podcast is just, like I said, it's something different out there. God gave me the mandate to get on here. This is even before I was doing the lives and everything. He said, I'm putting my rod of correction in your throat. I'm putting my rod of correction in your throat. And that's not to say that, I haven't been through anything or that I'm perfect. Because sometimes when people offer correction or offer you to self-reflect, they're like, oh, well, you didn't do anything. oh, you're Miss Perfect or whatever. No, I could say that because I've been through some stuff. But also God gave me the wisdom, right? Because I don't want anyone to go through anything. I mean, you have to go through, but not to stay in something so long, right? We all have to go through our individual path, even with our choices, but there is trauma, unnecessary trauma that you don't have to go through, right? So let me finish going through my notes. And this is like natural things. So if you're dealing with, I know we're talking about the trauma of your choices, but there's natural things, that you can do to help you with, if you're going through trauma, movement, with exercise. It disrupts your body's natural equilibrium. Exercise and movement can help repair your nervous system. That was something interesting that I looked up. I'm like, okay, well, how do you get over trauma? But definitely number one is that don't rush. It takes time. And the second thing is connect with others. The third one is ask for support. There are a lot of you that are suffering, from trauma, and you don't want to talk to anybody. You don't really trust anybody with what you're feeling. You feel like it's too heavy to maybe put on somebody. But God will lead you. If you ask God, God will lead you to someone that will help you unpack that will help you, little by little, to do the work, to help you, get to that place where, okay, this is the location, this is why I'm like this, this is why I'm doing this, right? So again, ask for support. And the last one is volunteering, getting your mind, and basically what that is getting your mind off yourself, right? A lot of times that we feel with trauma and it'd be depression and anxiety thing, is that because we focus too much on ourselves and our own issues and our own problems. It's all about what we're going through. But if you do something, like I said, it says volunteering, and get your mind off yourself. So that's another way to help as God is dealing with you, as he's peeling back layers, as he's directing you in some things. Though these are natural things that you can do, right? So I talked about, before I did this, I was just looking through the Bible, and I was like, well, God, what are the people that went through emotional trauma, right, in the Bible? So like I said, my pastor was preaching on it last night, and on the trauma of, God, God trusting you. And Job was on my notes. I'm like, he all in my notes. Job was in my notes. He suffered grief, loss, and illness, right? So that had to produce a lot of emotional trauma, right? At the time, like, you can hear it through the writings. He's just like, Lord, what are you doing? Why am I going through this? Right? Because that's a lot of times what we think when we go. But like I said, this is another outlook or direction that I'm going, is because sometimes it's just not about God doing that thing in you, even though he does use it. But sometimes it's out of choices that he told you not to make in the first place. We do it anyway. And so now we're suffering because we've been disobedient, right? Let's talk about that. Just suffering because of disobedience. We just was not obedient. So now we just got this trauma because of disobedience. We choose to be disobedient. We choose not to walk in humility, right? And so we're wondering, well, what's going on? It's like, well, maybe you need to check if you're arrogant, check if you lack humility. And that may be why you're going through stuff. A lot of things are not because, God is just, or the devil's just attacking you. We tend to blame stuff on the devil all the time. Everything's not the devil, is the devil, right? Like I said, some of it is because of our choices. My mom, she will always say this to us. And this is the one thing that I remember that she would teach us. She would say, life is all about choices. Life is made up of your choices. You build your life on what you choose, right? And God gives us outs. He gives us ways, and gives us opportunity to choose his way all the time, right? He does. And it's by his grace and his mercy that he scoops us back to the right position. We might have to go around the park for a couple times. We might have to redo some things, but by the grace and mercy, he always, he'll turn us around and land us in the right direction. And you be like, God, I done did all of that, and I'm right back where I'm started. That's how I felt when I did all of that and went through my divorce. Got married, got divorced, got the house, whatever, and all of that went through. I feel like I was taken up in a whirlwind and brought back into the place that I was running away from. Like after relationship after relationship after relationship. But the thing is, though, I'm thankful of it. Even though I've made those choices and it did cause me trauma, I'm just in a place where I'm thankful because it gave me purpose, right? I looked at it the right way. My lens was correct in looking at the whys and why he had me doing what I was doing. Like, okay, I made those choices. It was orchestrated. You knew all about this guy. Sometimes, we get stuck in maybe condemning ourselves because we made certain choices and we think that God just like throws us away. He don't throw us away. He's trying to lead you into the right direction if we listen. He don't throw us away, right? If you love God, you want a relationship, you want to be, you're just trying to do right. He's not going to throw you away. He's going to redirect you as many times as he can. As many times as he wants to, I would say, right? So, let's see what I have in my notes. So, the choices that may cause trauma that you guys may not know, your choices of friends may cause you trauma. Just think about, why you're feeling the way you might be going through something unnecessarily. Sometimes you just got to look at the group of friends that you're around. Check your circle. Check who you choose to involve yourself with, right? Look around. That's it. Hey, Lawanda. Hail to Lawanda. Yep. Sometimes your friends is causing you so much anxiety, so much trauma. But guess what? We chose them. We chose them to be close to us. We chose them to, we invite them to our house. We invite them to our birthday gatherings. We invite them, right? We have a choice in what we put, what conversations we have around ourselves, right? So you got to think about that because friends are really, and another thing, sometimes we'll get so caught up in loyalty that you overlook something that's toxic, right? You'll be like, well, they was down for me and this and that, but they are literally draining you. And then you're traumatized. Like, if that friendship ends, you're going to be looking at all these other ones that want to become your friends with a sad eye, right? Just looking at them like, well, what do you want? You want something from me? Well, what do you want? So, so that's one thing. What choices may cause trauma? So it could be your choice of friends, and I gave that example with a choice of relationships, right? Who you choose to be with and date and, whatever, it could cause you trauma, especially if you've been through so much, with one person. Like I had gave that example that I literally just like, it was a nice evening, sitting and talking, literally just nothing was going on, just sitting and talking, and something like hit me where I got so like, I don't know, just like paralyzed with fear and felt the need to run out. Like, I gotta go home. I don't know. I just got to get out of here. Like, that was the last straw. I couldn't take any more of the mental games, the weariness of what are we doing? Some of you out there, you know how that feels, just that limbo, right, of where we are, in relationships. And this and sometimes, and to be honest, with how I was back then, it's like then you're walking on eggshells. You're trying to please that person. You're trying to do and be how they want you to be. And then you're realizing, well, what do I want? I don't even know myself. And that's how I realized, like, I really didn't know myself, because I was just trying to be so much on how that person wanted me to be, that I was just turning into something else. And I'm like, that is not me. Right? So that's another one. And the other one that I have is, choice of employment. Your choice of employment, your career path. Sometimes we'll choose things and choose career paths, choose jobs for, the wrong reason. And I get it, in this day and age, we need to make money. We need to, have a living, earn a living. But when it comes to career paths, sometimes people just stay in it, just for money, right? Just for money. And you don't understand why you're tired, why you're short-tempered. You don't understand that, and you have to that's where you question, like, is this my purpose? Right? Is this my purpose? What am I doing? Because I shouldn't feel like this, even though I do need the money, but I don't want to go through my life feeling like this, right? I'm going through so much anxiety and nervousness and depression and all of this stuff because I chose, the wrong career path. I did it maybe because my parents put pressure on me to go in this direction, or yep, that's a big one. My parents might have pressured me into going into that direction, or but it has to be purpose, right? Like me, I'm in a good place because I've always came into my job knowing that I'm not going to stay there, right? Because God told me, when I tell you month one, God told me, I remember I came in happy coming into my job because I was really in a desperate financial situation when that job came through. And God gave it to me and said that, I'm just giving it to you so it can be comfortable, so you can be able to do the things that I want you to do. It's going to be that easy so you can work this job to get what you need to get done. But yet it's going to give you room to be in your purpose and do what you're supposed to do. He said, so don't get too comfortable here because you're going to leave here, right? You're not going to be working for this company that long. Don't you get comfortable. So I look at it, I'm not in a rush to leave, but I just know that, there's going to be, and it's not bad. It's real easy. I work from home. It pays good, and it's perks, and the people I like or whatever. I've made friends. So it's easy to get stuck here, right? But, my mind, God had already prepped my mind that you're leaving, right? You're leaving. um So I put on here, any choice made outside of God's will causes unnecessary trauma. So I'll read that again. Any choice made outside of God's will cause unnecessary trauma. There's trauma. Like I said, my pastor preached it, last night. Like I said, we was in the vein because I had these notes written down, right? There are some trauma that you experience, and I wanted to kind of even talked about that before. People don't talk about the trauma of God's processing you, right? Nobody talks about that when God processes you, you have to be careful to not charge God foolishly for it, and not just be mad because you had to go through it. And I can't see anyone doing that, because usually when you get to where God wants you to be at, you see why, right? You see why you had to go through that process, and it doesn't feel like it, because it reminds me of labor. I have never been in labor, but it just reminds me, as I was, just observing labor, that when it's all said, like, you go through all this pain, but when it's done, look what you got, right? look what you got. You got a baby right in your hand, and you forgetting, may forget about all that pain that you went through, and find out that it was worth it. So it's different, right? But I'm talking about the choice you make outside of God's will. Imagine that, unnecessary drama, stuff that you didn't have to go through. Like, I didn't have to go through, right? All of this stuff if I would have just sat still and just let God do what he had to do and send who he wanted for me. But he used all of that for my good because I love him, right? He used all of that for my good because I want to do good by him. I want to do what he wants me to do, right? So I would even let me throw this story out here. I love to be transparent, and some of you may already have heard it before. There was one time when I dated. This is when I got back into the church. I was dealing with someone, and I didn't know that they were married. Like, legit, pure, just really, 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 I did not know that they were married. But I would have dreams about this person. And I remember the person was like, I told you, I was looking for the guy, and his cousin or somebody was there, and he was like, I told him to leave her alone, to leave the that crazy one alone. So, when you have rose-colored glasses, and you feel like you're with the person you're gonna be with, I guess, at that time. But I was really just in a different mind space. It was an unhealthy mind space. And I was like, okay, well, God, that dream doesn't make any sense. So, anyways, going through it, it just didn't work out, whatever. Like I said, I found out everything. And in the midst of us, while we were dating, how my car sits, my car had been sitting out there for a long time, but it was hit. It was not the car that I have now, but it was another car before that. It had got hit. I came out and it was a big old dent on the side of my car, like somebody just like rammed into it. So I'm like, oh my God, somebody hit my car. Didn't think about it or whatever. But after all of that was over with the relationship that I was in, or it was a situationship that I was in with him. And I was, going to church and everything, started going to church, and God brought it to me like a movie. He was just like, that was his wife that hit your car. I said, what? That was his wife that hit your car. Then I'm just like, well, how does she know, where I live, or how does she know that's my car? Then I'm like, oh, I remember the times that I would let him drive my car while I was at work. So that's why. So look at the trauma of my choices, right? You can't get away from the consequences of what you choose, no matter if you've changed directions. Like I said, I was going after God, I was going to church, I was, getting my relationship right. Right. Get my relationship right. And thinking about it, I'm just like, oh my God, that's what happened. This the choices, right, that we make. But anyway, it was crazy, y'all. I'm telling y'all, like, I had some stories. Thank God for healing and deliverance, I tell you. But I mean, unnecessary trauma, right? Let me see. Trauma that comes from the dealings of God, comes from not accepting what God get us where he wants us to be. And then another one is like I talked about in the beginning, to be careful with idolization. Like I told you guys, I used to idolize marriage, and I made choices out of my idolization, right? So if you idolize marriage, you make choices contrary to where God wants you. You're going to make choices that's going to feed into what you adore and what you admire. Idolization is basically like you're looking at that thing or that person as a god. That's what that means. Like, they're your God. You everything that you need or that you feel like they can provide, you're gonna feed into that. You're gonna show your attention to that. So it could be a person, it could be a thing. So if you idolize money, right, you're gonna make choices according to money, right? So it's just, if you idolize, I mean, it can be anything, your friends, if you idolize anything, you're going to make choices according to that. You're going to reap the choices from that. So you might be traumatized because I did things to satisfy, you know, what I idolized. So I idolized marriage. So I wasn't listening to maybe what God wanted me to have or whatever. I just idolized marriage. Right? It didn't have to be didn't really have too much of a criteria or whatever. I just wanted to be married. Right? So, there's consequences for making choices, when you idolize something. Yeah, that's what I wrote down. Idolization will cause you to make choices that more than likely will cause emotional trauma. I know this for a fact. Also chasing busyness over purpose. There's consequences for that. There's consequences for choosing to be busy over purpose. There's a difference, of being busy and being purposeful, right? Being busy will eat up your day. Will eat up. You'll just be like, okay, well, what it yields really no fruit. When you're busy, it yields no fruit. There's no fruit to just being busy, and you worn out, you stressed out, there's, and then you just like, oh my goodness, why am I feeling like this, or my body feeling like this? Because you chose to be busy. So now we just got this trauma. Can't sleep, and then the lack of sleep just causes you to just not think right. Headaches, all of that stuff, right? Anxiety, because you got to get stuff done, and sometimes you have to look at what you're trying to get done. You're trying to be busy. Is it part of purpose? Is it purposeful, right? So that was the last thing that I had was for that. But I just wanted to share that because, like I said, the trauma of our choices, it was so dear to my heart because I experienced it. Like I shared, mine was about relationships and people. Yeah, just a busybody. And I've been, that too, where jumping from idea to idea, and then it's like, but I'm not focusing on one thing. I'm not focusing on what matters at this moment. And a lot of times, we don't catch it. Sometimes we'll do that because we're really trying to run away from the main thing. We're trying to run away from the purposeful thing because I'm going to tell y'all, the thing about going after purpose and the purposeful thing will cause you to transform to the thing that's purposeful. God won't let you do something for him without you transforming with it, without you being different, without you being delivered, without you changing with it. That's one thing I tell people, I warn people, you want to do things for God, you want to go after purpose and do what he tell you to do. It could be anything. God will deliver you if you are not, you're not fitting with what he's purposed for you to do. Like I got delivered writing my book, right? And I mean, it was a huge deliverance. Writing my book, I got delivered writing my book. I got delivered answering my call to ministry. I got delivered. Anything that I said yes to, I got delivered. Right? I don't even know why I threw that caveat out there. But I got delivered with every purposeful thing that I had to do. I got delivered. Like that was like a requirement. And I tell everybody, you want to do that? Or this is what God want me to do. I said, you're going to get delivered. I'm telling you right now, you're going to get delivered. You don't stop it. Keep on going. Because you're going to feel like the devil may be trying to get you. But no, it's God trying to get some stuff out of you. Right? Yep. And it's also good to write things down so you can see if you're on track with what God is calling for you to do and pray about that list. Definitely. Because look, I got a list. I got a list. I mean, it's not a long list. It really does tie into each other. And that's another thing. You might have a lot of things or you feel that's a lot, but it's gonna serve one purpose, right? You're gonna have like a theme that keeps coming up, right? It's gonna come together, right? It's gonna come together and it's gonna make sense. So yeah, I've been writing that down, writing things down, and some stuff I'm just like, well, Jesus, I don't know. But yeah, it's gonna cause you to be better and to fit into there. So that's all I had, guys. If you're experiencing trauma, just think about choices that you have made. This is a time of definitely of deep self-reflection. We can't point fingers at people, can't point fingers at the devil. Think about what choices that you have made that is causing you to be in such an emotional turmoil. A lot of it is not what, my pastor, like I said, he preached about, the trauma of God trusting you. So it's everything is not about the process all the time. I mean, like I said, he uses it for process, but a lot of it's not the process all the time. It's what we chose, what we put ourselves in, that we experiencing anxiety and depression. And you guys know what I said before. I don't know which podcast it was about. What God revealed to me about depression is that, sometimes depression comes from, God really just saying, you're shutting down your will, shutting your will down. That's sometimes what a lot of depression is like, because you know that God don't want you to go in that direction. So he's shutting your will down. He wants you to choose his will. So we I have so much invested in what I wanted to do. I mean, I just knew this is what the direction. So when he says no, right, we get depressed. We get depressed. We just in a space and nothing work and don't nobody love us anymore. But what it comes down is that God is just shutting your will down, right? That happened to me. I'm like, God, you just shutting my will down. And it feels like he's shutting your whole world down, because you revolved everything according to your will, what you wanted to do. And it feels like everything is shutting down around you. But really, God is really trying to direct you into another way. But that was our whole world. We had a plan. We was married to it. We made a covenant with it. And so now we're going through the trauma of our choice. Right? So, you guys just go, and like I said, he deals with us in layers, and it takes time. If you're experiencing trauma right now, it takes time, right? It takes time to go through those layers, because God, I always say that God will never rip off all the layers at one time, because it'll kill you. He'll take off little slither, at a time, a little slither here, a little slither there, because you can't handle being peeled back like that, right? Because we're not gonna admit that, oh my God, like that's there. Well, no, that's the devil. He don't no, he wants you to see you so you can get it together, right? So okay, I believe I'm done, unless you guys have any more questions or comments for me. But if you've missed the beginning, catch the replay. And like I said, go on YouTube. This does stream live from YouTube. I know I'm a YouTube person. Yep, layers on onions. That's it. Like layers on onions. Yep, peel it. You can't peel that all the way. You got to peel it little by little, right? So you guys, yep, YouTube, this does upload to my podcast, audibly, right? So, and I mean, there's a lot of, like I said, it's literally people listen, around the world, and, different countries of the United States. So I'm so thankful for it, that people pick up on the podcast, and I pray that you're getting nuggets from it, podcast listeners, and applying it. And I would love to hear testimonies or anything. So just, make sure you can find me, email me, and let me know how you're enjoying the podcast thus far. So you guys know I always have to end this with this is definitely anything that I do and anything that we do for God. We always have to make sure that we offer, Christ. And I promised him this, right? So it comes from, the plan of salvation, from Romans 10 and 9, that if you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For it is with your heart that you believe and are justified, and it is with your mouth that you confess and are saved. So, you guys, this is really simple thing for you to say. You can say it in your private time. You don't have to wait till you go to church a Sunday morning. You never know if you will wake up the next morning, right? You don't know if you're going to wake up the next morning and have a chance to, confess to God and accept him as your Lord and Savior. And I mean, as simple as how I read it to you guys, you confess your sins and you confess with your heart, because the thing is, this is a heart thing, right? This is a heart thing, right? God weighs your heart. When you get up there, he's going to see, did you accept me in your heart? When you read that, and when you told me with your lips, did you accept it with your heart? That's what he's looking for. He's not looking for you to say it in front of a whole bunch of people, but he's saying, he's looking at you saying, did you mean it with your heart? And so when you mean it with your heart, you will receive the gifts that he wants you to have, like the Holy Spirit, right? In order to do the work. So you go, be led by God, go to a local, assembly, and continue to get educated, continue to get fed, in the things of God. Cause that's how I grew, right? That's how I grew, in the word, in teachings, and, just learn how to just go at home and go home and go after God, for myself, so that I can feel him everywhere I go. All right. So I thank you guys for tuning in. I don't know if I'll be on next week, but I'm gonna try to do better with thought of the days and everything. So I'm thankful that you guys tuned in. If you're just jumping in, go to the beginning, catch the replay. Okay. And I'll just go ahead and talk to you guys later. And you guys have an awesome rest of your evening. All right. Bye bye.